Recording. All right. This is Chinua Jared speaking at this moment. Here with me is, what's your name, sir?
Kenny Felton.
Kenny Felton. Kenny Felton, explain the reason why I'm recording you today. What evidence can you provide me as far as the landlord and the management company of this building?
Well, I happen to know that Rose Newstein is the owner. Ephraim Newstein is the husband who used to manage. And then they have a management company. I have knowledge as far as the conditions of the basement, how long those conditions have been, the bootlegging of the electrical, gas, and water, the condition of the apartments. I was a tenant in that's 2R, for approximately 2 years. Moved down to the first floor to a room. I was here when they put up the dividers to convert from apartments to rooms, which changed it to a rooming house.
Okay. So let me ask you this before we go any further. What was your disposition and why did you have to leave out of here?
I was brought here originally as a superintendent.
Okay.
When there was no need for me to be the superintendent anymore, when the management company took over, I was then evicted. They didn't even want me to pay rent. I offered on several occasions to pay several different amounts of rent, $200, $250, $500, and $600.
And you have enough evidence that you can prove that, correct? Yes,
this is all court recorded. I was evicted through the courts.
Okay. Well, I have to ask you this, especially when on camera. It can stand to see. It can stand as your witness testimony in front of this camera right now could be plagued or coerced in any way. Let me ask you this. Do you feel any ill feelings towards FDG management, Rose Newstein, or any parties to this building?
No, I don't. I'm not coerced. I'm not threatened. I'm not paid. No.
Have you received any promises from any of the legal tenants that they will personally give money out of their pockets to give to you for this recording?
No.
Okay. So we can safely assume and say that it stands to reason that everything you are saying right now is of your own solid and free will.
That's correct.
Okay. Now let's move forward. Tell me about the first time you came here to stay and the conditions of the apartment at that time. And if you can, I need dates if possible, or roundabout dates.
Round about 2008, when I moved over here, there was only one tenant at the time. The one tenant was under the process of being evicted. But after his eviction, he still stayed. And it was up to me to secure the building. I was the only tenant here to secure the building, clean up the building, maintain the building, as well as the utilities.
So we're going to pause for the gentleman to take a phone call. Okay, we resuming. Okay, you can go ahead and finish, sir.
After I maintained the apartment, kept the apartment clean, I was here by myself. In 2008 is when they started converting 2 of the apartments into rooms, and then people began to move in. The basement was still the same. Roto-Rooter did come by. We had about 2-3 feet of water since I was there at 2008. In 2009, Roto-Rooter came, and all they did was drain the water out.
Okay, let me ask you this. Did you actually see Roto-Rooter?
Yeah, I seen Roto-Rooter.
Do the work personally?
Do the work personally.
And did they clean up the Roto-Rooter, or did anybody?
They just drained the water.
They just drained the water, so there was no actual cleanup after the sewage.
No cleanup after the sewage. The windows were left open for the smell to dissipate.
Okay, so with that knowledge, then they turned around and set up partitions in each wall. In fact, before we go any further, what apartment is this right now that we're actually recording in?
First floor, R. This would be R, 1R. L, 1L, 1L.
Okay.
To the left.
Now, you know, Jared going on record saying that I was a legal tenant here in 1L-B, which is, do you know which 1L-B is?
I had no idea that they had dashes labeling the rooms.
And why is that?
When they put the divider up and they rented the rooms, they wanted it just to be 3 people renting an apartment. And I found out later, it's a rooming house. That's a rooming house.
Okay. So let me ask you this. You claimed that you was a super, so you would have some knowledge of FDG's operations.
Yeah, they have 10 other properties that I also did management at. Brantford Place in Orange, they have 3 properties. They have another one on Schuyler. I believe that's Orange also. And they have 2 on Sunset that I'm aware of. And 2 in North Newark.
Okay, is any of these other properties that you just mentioned, any of them rooming houses set up like this, to your knowledge?
I wouldn't know.
Okay.
They weren't when I was doing management on them. I don't know about now.
Okay. On top of that, do you know of any permits or any sort of paperwork going into the Division of Community Affairs, which is a state agency in Trenton, or Newark Municipal Code, to bring forth a license to do any conversions from a 4-family unit into a boarding house?
Well, I am aware that you do need some type of permit and some type of license from the city as well to provide a rooming house, as well as safety and security, heat, hot water, things of that nature.
Okay, but let me ask you, do you know of any permits or any licenses that was given or received to FDG Management, Rose or Ephraim Newstein, or the registered agent of FDG Management, which is Eli Newstein?
No.
Of any permits or anything to your knowledge?
No, when they converted, they put up no permits. The contractors put up no permits. I know there's supposed to be one in the hallway and, you know, on the windowsill, things like that. None of that was done. They hired unlicensed contractors to do the work, handymen, like myself.
Okay. Now last night, because today is December the 1st. Last night, November 30th, around about 7:30, in order to comply with a judge's order for the tenants in 2R, they had to cut back lights on. This gentleman represented himself as a maintenance worker for FDG. Do you know who Roy is?
Roy is one of his handymen.
What is Roy's last name?
I don't know Roy's last name.
Okay. What is Roy's nationality?
I believe he's from Trinidad, somewhere, one of those.
In the Caribbean.
Caribbean, yeah, he's Caribbean.
Okay. And how long did you know Roy?
2 years since I've been here.
2 years. Okay. Because he does mention on film that he does know about you, and that you did assisted at the time and stuff like that. Could you give me a little background about Roy as much as possible?
Well, when I met him, he was coming in to change locks, and then he put up the dividers to create the rooms. That's about all that he did. There was one other worker that I met. I believe he was a Polish guy, and he put up gas heaters in one apartment. He hooked the apartments up to one hot water tank. That was his function. And he turned on the lights. Whenever the lights went out, he turned the lights on.
So you meaning to tell me this Polish guy, which I can go on record on saying that I've seen before when he tried to put illegal gas heaters with gas lines protruding outside of the wall, I can tell that he definitely was doing a lot of illegal stuff. Do you know of this gentleman having any sort of license or anything to the store or any permit to allow him to do what he did that you seen?
No, he has no license.
He has no license.
He worked out of his car.
He works out of his car. He has no electrician's license or permit to work.
No plumbing, nothing.
So, I mean, it's safe to say that whenever this gentleman messes with the electrical box, with PSE&G, PSE&G is not aware of what this gentleman is doing, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Tell me something about the wiring that's going on in the basement as right now.
In the basement, there are the 5 switches, the boxes for the switches, and in order to run all the apartments, what they did was they ran one apartment that I know of had legal electricity, so they wired the rest of the apartments to that one apartment. And you can tell this because all the lights are on in all the apartments, but if you look outside, the meters are not running.
Okay. So let me ask you this. How much knowledge do you have as far as electrical wiring?
I've got my apprenticeship.
Okay. Have you been licensed?
No.
Okay. But it's safe to assume that being under an apprenticeship for how long?
I've had my apprenticeship for about maybe 10 years. 10
years. So it's safe to say, even without you being properly licensed, that you have full and extensive knowledge of all electrical wiring and anything that has to do with it.
That's correct, but I can't operate without a licensed electrician by my side. That's why I only have an apprenticeship. I have to work under a licensed electrician.
Okay. We're going to have to stop now because I have to change batteries.
Okay.
Now we are going back to recording, and here with us is a tenant named Timothy Cole from apartment 2R, which is in a heap of legal proceedings right now with FDG management. Let's get back to FDG management for a little bit. Okay, Mr. Felton, let me ask you this. Can you explain to me the hierarchy or the positional positions of everyone at FDG management, starting from the bottom up?
I've only met Mark. I've met, it was another gentleman, 2 other gentlemen.
Okay.
One was a rent collector. Mark was the main man that I dealt with.
Okay, Mark Gottsman represents himself as a regional property manager for the New Jersey side of Future Developers Group Incorporated, known as FDG Management. Are you aware of anything to that effect?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know who Eli Newstein is?
I believe I met him as his nephew.
As
his nephew.
As whose nephew?
Ephraim and Rose Newstein's nephew.
Okay. I just had a conversation with Carolyn Long, who is the Division of Community Affairs lead supervisor for the agency. Keeps trying to get to have them sanctioned for that property, which I just now gave them enough information to get them with. Did you hear on my phone call today with Ms. Long that Eli Newstein is the registered agent of FDG Management?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that Eli Newstein is Rose and Ephraim Newstein's nephew, correct?
Nephew, yeah. When I was told by Ephraim Newstein that his nephew, Eli, was going to be taking over his business. This was back in 2008.
Okay. Explain to me about some of the warrants and sanctions that has been imposed on Rose and Ephraim Newstein.
Well, I happen to know of several tenants that's filed complaints of the conditions, and I happen to know of the city citing the property and the owner And his thing is he never appears to court, so they put warrants out for non-appearance.
Okay. Which is safe to say that they don't want to come back into New Jersey until
Safe to say.
Okay.
They'll be arrested if they come to New Jersey.
Okay. Now, I did some investigation myself. I've noticed that Rose Newstein had the property without a management company. The paper trail stops cold in 2008. And FDG appears out of nowhere in 2009. In 2008? Okay. So insurance, homeowners insurance has been changed. The title and insurance has been changed. Do you have any factual information that you can provide to me right now about those changes?
Well, far as to my knowledge is, from my last day here, everything is still in Rose Newstein's name.
Yes, that's
and the management company is basically power of attorney, so to say.
Power of attorney. Okay. So is it safe to say that everything that FDG does, Rose and Ephraim Newstein knows about it, and vice versa?
They should, yeah. I would say that, yeah. Maybe not down to the particulars, but overall, yeah. I mean, a management company has to give a report to the owner.
Okay. Mark Gottsman proclaimed to me in front of a witness and a recording, which I know I can't use in court, but it's different in the court of public opinion, that he stated, and I quote, "We are not collecting no more rent. We are not doing nothing with this building because the owners of the building hasn't contacted us and is ignoring our calls." Is it safe to say that Mark has full knowledge and full contact information of Rose and Ephraim Newstein?
I would say.
I would have to have you say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me anything about Eli Newstein?
That's the nephew, Eli. I only know of him running the building, running his management. Like I said, the message that was given to me by Ephraim was that my nephew, Eli, is taking over my property. My business is the exact word he said.
He's taking over my business.
Taking over my business.
So to your full knowledge, FDG represents themselves as a company that if you're in homeowner trouble or if you're not making no real money from your property, give it to us and we'll contract it and make you make money whether people are there or not. Is it safe to say that Rose and Ephraim Newstein contracted FDG management to manage their property?
Well, I know it's all still in the family.
So what you're saying is basically...
I don't know how long FTD management has been in business. I've only come encounter with them in 2008.
Well, according to the information given to me by Ms. Long, their entity started somewhere in 2009. Okay. So, is it safe to say that Eli Newstein knows extensive knowledge of what's going on with Rose and Ephraim Newstein?
Yes.
Is it also safe to say that Rose and Ephraim Newstein not contracted FTG management to manage their property, but they themselves build FTG management and had their nephew as the registered owner?
I would assume so. I can't definitely say for sure. I would assume so. I mean, he told me his nephew would be running this business, and then this management company appeared.
Okay, well, give me a little further elaboration as far as that.
2008, he said his nephew Eli is going to take over his business. In 2008, myself and other tenants in other buildings were introduced to FTD management that they are now responsible for the properties, collecting the rent, maintenance, so on and so on.
So, which meaning, if FDG or any management company who assumes the responsibilities of an owner now can be just as responsible as the owner?
Liable. Yeah, they'd be liable just as the owner.
Okay.
Paperwork still had, all paperwork that I was given had Rose or Ephraim's name on it. Only paperwork I seen from FTG management was that to go to court.
So let me ask you
that
this.
They were representing Rose to take me to court.
So let me ask you this. Have you actually seen the actual contract with Rose, Ephraim, Newstein, and FDG management for them to manage the properties?
The work that I've done for them, I drew up the contract, and Ephraim signed it.
So Ephraim signed
all leases were under Rose and Ephraim Newstein.
Okay.
Signed by Ephraim.
Signed by Ephraim. And even after FDG's
Even after FTG management, all paperwork had Rose and Newstein's name on it.
Okay. Well, like I said earlier, the paper trail stopped cold. Nobody knows who's insured by who. DCA was running around, couldn't find information. Essex County didn't provide enough information. Why is that, in your opinion? I'm only asking for your opinion at this time.
My opinion, once a management company is hired, then you no longer have to be on the front line. So a paperwork trail would definitely stop cold right there once the management company took over.
But normally,
that doesn't make me 100% liable, speaking as Rose or Ephraim, into any further litigations with the companies or the property.
How much knowledge do you have on landlord-tenant issues?
Not much, only my experience.
Okay, I'm going to stop in 1 second. I got to start again. Two more questions quick. Okay, going back on. So let me ask you this. Not in an opinion, but do you believe that FDG management should have registered themselves the same way Rose and Ephraim Newstein registered themselves as acting managers or some sort of representatives for them in the court systems and the land and deeds, registered deed systems and stuff like that?
Yes, as I said, they didn't even let the tenants know that they were the ones that were taking over. So what happened was everyone was somehow moved out or evicted, and new tenants came in where they didn't have to show and prove who they were. They can only verbally say who they were, as well as converting it to a rooming house.
Okay.
There was no notices given out that we're turning these apartments into rooming houses.
No notices.
No notices.
To none of the prior tenants at the time.
None of the prior tenants.
Do you have names or any sort of information of these prior tenants?
No one. Mr. Jackson was the only one here when I came in, and he was in the eviction process.
What is Mr. Jackson's full name, if you know it?
I don't know his full name.
Okay, no problem. But we can. It's safe to assume and it's safe to say that
he's
Mr. Jackson's. Okay. So with that being said, is it a possibility that with everything that's going on right now, the legal boarding house, clear-cut violations and maliciousness to rent out people in health safety conditions, is it safe to say and assume that Mark Gottsman, Regional Property Manager, Eli Newstein, Registered Agent of FDG Management as a corporation, Rose Newstein, and Ephraim Newstein had full and extensive knowledge of a flooding in the basement full of sewage? Do they have extensive knowledge of that?
Yes.
Did they, in your factual statement, did they do anything to clean any of that stuff up after they resolved or remedied the situation?
No.
So it wasn't a complete full cleanup with hazmat individuals?
What was drained out, that's it.
Okay. So it's safe to also assume that they had prior knowledge to go ahead and continue to set up a rooming house and put people in these rooming houses with that health and safety condition that lies in the basement as we speak right now.
Yes.
Okay. When's the last time have you been in the basement?
I walked past it today.
You walked past it today. Have you physically been inside the basement?
No, I will not go in that basement.
And why is that?
I have known the history of that basement. Every step is toxic.
Was there an illegal apartment in the basement?
There's an apartment in the basement.
Was this apartment done by Rose Newstein or FDG Management?
Rose Newstein.
Rose Newstein.
FDG Management wasn't around when that apartment was made.
Okay. And explain that apartment, because from what I've seen, when they broke down a wall, there was a couple of gas meters there being hidden.
Those gas meters were there when the building was put up. The apartment was made after that fact. The apartment was actually made for superintendent made the apartment. He needed a place to stay. They didn't want to give him one of the apartments. They allowed him to make an apartment in the basement because there was plumbing down there. And he made a one-bedroom apartment. Kitchen, bathroom, living room, bedroom. His bedroom, unfortunately, covered the gas meters.
Okay. So just a couple more minutes, I just want to ask you a few more questions. So, with that said, in your opinion, what type of people who would actually rent out a place under those conditions, knowing that these conditions exist, what type of people would they be considered as?
Not knowing. I don't think anyone, when they went to view a room or the apartment, walked in the basement.
Yes, because I can honestly say that they never showed me the basement. They never showed nobody else the basement. It's safe to assume that. But
they should, because that's where your water tank and your meters are.
But what we know, omission is just as bad as lying. And in fact, omission pretty much can prove maliciousness. Do you think, in your opinion, that the omission of the situation in the basement can provide a malicious intent, that they have indigent individuals who desperately needed a place to stay and they didn't mind collecting their money? Do you think that that was done with malicious intent, with knowing that the fact that the basement is corroded with mold, feces, and it's stretched all the way up to the ceiling?
Yes, yes.
And explain to me, why do you think that's malicious?
Well, you're well aware of the conditions, and yet you accept the money from a tenant, a future tenant, possible tenant. You do everything you can to keep people out of the basement. I mean, there's no way for the gas man to read the meter. The gas meters are down in the basement. You have to walk through the soot to get to the meters. And no gas man would want to walk through there. I, on many occasions, have attempted to walk through the basement with Mark. Mark never came past the basement door. He's seen the water. He took one step, it goes past his shoe, and he knew he couldn't walk through it. I couldn't walk through it. I offered to clean out the basement, but he did not want to understand. You need a hazmat outfit. You need inspectors to come by. I mean, it's sewage. It's raw sewage.
And you need a licensed individual to clean that up.
You need a licensed individual to come and clean that up.
Okay.
That has to be carried away. You can't just open up a drain and let it go out and then shovel it up.
Okay. We got 1 minute 30 seconds left approximately. I just wanted to cover one fact real quick. Explain the situation that happened today in 2R on 12/1/2011 when Mark himself tried to self-serve paperwork on apartment 2R.
I was visiting Jared, talking about the conditions of the building, and I was a past tenant. Mark came. I don't know what his intentions were at the time. He wanted to come into the apartment, and Jared said, for what? He pushed Jared 2 hands to try and move him out of the way. He had a paper in his hand and ran out.
All right. Well, you know, we're going to continue this interview. I know you got some things to do. You're gonna go take care of that. Then we're going to be doing this again in about an hour or so, correct?
All right.
This is definitely a lot more information that we need to ask you and stuff.
You got a question? Okay.
No, I don't think you have a question at this time. But so far, I want to say thank you so much right now, and we will resume this recording. Okay. Back to the recording. This is Mr. Kenny Felton again, and the one who's speaking behind the camera. In fact, let me let my face be known. My name is Chinua Jarrett. I reside here at 225 Sunset Avenue, and right now I may be enemy of FDG. They really have it out for me at this point. But let's get back to some testimony about certain aspects. But first, let me introduce Timothy Cole, another displaced resident. They're trying to evict without paying, knowing that they're supposed to pay. Okay, Mr. Cole, before I have any other questions, any questions you want to ask, Mr. Felton?
No, I pretty much intervene as I see fit as far as where we're going with the information.
Okay. Now, where we last left off at, basically, we were talking about the assaults, and I think we covered every part of that. In your honest opinion, the way that Mark went about trying to serve that paperwork, was he legally right or legally wrong to have done what he did?
No, I don't see the management company coming to serve paperwork that they put motions in to appear in court.
It was usually a court officer, correct?
A court officer would do that. It would be a mail, certified delivery, court officer.
Speaking of court officers,
I mean, the way he did it, he could have called you.
Right. But speaking of court officers, there's one in particular that keeps the scene coming here. Tell me about this court officer.
I don't remember his name. Spanish guy, stocky. He has been the constable, works for the courts, personally for those guys at every building that they own whenever there's an eviction. Okay. I've been on his side to put locks on, change the locks when the people have been evicted.
Alright, for the record, the officer's name is Officer Torres, but I want you to verify Torres by one thing. Officer Torres has a distinctive mark. Could you explain to me what's the distinctive mark that you know of?
The distinctive mark, because a birthmark or some scar maybe?
Located on what part of his body?
Like neck, cheek.
Yes, there is a somewhat of a tattoo or a birthmark, which is widely visible on Officer Torres's upper torso and the neck area, which validates that Officer Torres not only has been a constable and keeps singly serving evictions out after I put him on notice, which I have footage of. He seemed to have ran away when I put him on notice to arrest someone for illegally locking the person out with no warrant of removal, and while him doing that in front of the court officer. Now, with that being said, if I recited the law to the court officer, what is a court officer supposed to do if the facts in front of him are factual?
Investigate.
Not only investigate, but he must act upon the law that's stated right there on the same piece of paperwork that he's posting on these doors, correct?
Correct. Okay.
When he illegally padlocked me out and I put him on notice, shouldn't the court officer came and told the person who was padlocking the doors to stop, cease and desist, or give me a key?
Well, that part you're gonna have to. I'm not familiar with.
Okay, I will definitely show you the law on that, and the law. I mean, this is the law on the back of the paper for the eviction that's signed by the court officer Torres, who brings the paper here. But at this time, we're gonna go ahead and move forward. No, not yet, the tour. We're gonna pause for 1 second.